On the ocean at the border of Long Beach and Lido Beach stands a stately grand dame known as the Lido Beach Towers Condominium now, but originally it was the Lido Club Hotel, Senator William H. Reynolds' final dream, a resort of incomparable beauty and amenities. And you can see in this picture, this is a postcard of the time. I believe it is here because of Doug Shear. I don't know if he's on today. Are you, Doug? No, maybe not. But you can see the south side of the building. You can see the iconic cupolas. And you can see the parapets. And this is what the publishing company has sent me with Meet the Author. And I'm supposed to be out and about doing presentations. But of course, due to the circumstances, we'll do them this way for now. Just a little about me. I live at Lido Beach Towers and in Malvern. I'm a retired special education teacher, trustee of the Long Beach Historical Society, and I work in the archives there.
That's beautiful. Great job.
This book was a labor of love, and I don't know if everyone can read on the right-hand side, all the many people in the community who have helped me with this book. Eileen, you're one of them.
Thank you.
I even was able to reach out to Mark Footeron, who is the great-grandson of William H. Reynolds, who developed this building, and he's had some information that'll be presented in the book.
It's beautiful.
Okay, this is another poster that they sent me. The book is going to be released on August 3rd. It'll be available for purchase at the Long Beach Historical Society gift shop, and I hope that everyone local decides to purchase it there because it will help the society financially. And the Long Beach Historical Society has decided to have all of its events this year, if and when they happen, based on the Lido Club Hotel, including their exhibit, which we're working on now, and on the house tours and teas that are coming up. For those people who don't live on the Barrier Island and can't get to the Long Beach Historical Society, you can certainly call and we can mail it to you, but if not, the book is available through Arcadia, Amazon, and Barnes & Noble.
Thank you for that.
Okay, I'm just gonna move some of you here. All right, the Lido Club Hotel was the crown jewel of Reynolds' masterful plan to create America's Riviera in Long Beach. It opened in 1928, and I'm just trying to move some of these cards so I can read it. Can everyone read the slide? Can you?
Yes, we can read it.
Okay, because I'm trying to, okay, here you go. Okay, and for over 45 years, it served as a luxurious oceanfront resort for the rich and famous. Initially, for the first 12 years, it was owned and operated by Senator William Reynolds, who developed it. Then in 1940, although it survived the Depression and survived the hurricane of 1938, what happened was Reynolds was not religious about paying his bills. He sold the mortgage and didn't pay the certificate holders, and the building went into foreclosure. And by 1940, there was no agreement other than to sell the building. And the next person who owned it was a gentleman named Seiden. I don't know in our discussion that follows if anyone remembers that name. He purchased it in 1940 and held the building until 1962, except for the years during World War II when the United States Navy requisitioned the building and the 167 acres. In 1962, Seiden sold the property to Martin Tannenbaum, the owner of Yonkers Raceway. And he did something very interesting. He bought the building for $3,700,000. And what he did was he immediately sold off all but 14 acres of the property, which exists today, to a private enterprise that took the cabanas and the beautiful surrounding terrace club and made that a separate entity from the hotel. And then after he sold it in 1970, upon his death, Mrs. Fisher, Yolanda Fisher, who owned other hotels in Long Beach, purchased it, and she made it into a kosher hotel, which is quite strange because initially it began in the 1928 under William Reynolds as not as not letting Jewish people come in. It had a restricted clause. And then she did her best to keep it going, but times were changing. The building was getting older. Her clientele was getting older. And in 1980, it closed for good as a hotel and became the Lido Hotel, the Lido Beach Towers. You can see here, this is a picture of William Reynolds. William Reynolds was a young New York State senator. He really wasn't interested in politics. He was interested in making connections, and that he did. He was a real estate developer. He built Dreamland. I don't know if those of you are familiar with Coney Island. That was one of the most amazing parks, but it burned down. In 1906, he made a deal to purchase Long Beach Barrier Island, and he developed that, but by the 1920s, he began to look forward and eastward to Lido Beach and to create an American Riviera. The golf course was already there in the 20s, and he decided to create a seaside resort with incomparable amenities. He chose William Albert Swayze as the Lido Club Hotel's architect. Swayze was an engineer and an architect, a graduate of MIT, practiced in St. Louis, moved to New York City to build theaters for the Schubert brothers. And that's probably, I suspect, how he met Reynolds, because Reynolds was a real showman and liked to hang out with all the people in the theater. As a matter of fact, he married a woman in the theater. Swayze built many, many theaters, and one that exists now and we're all familiar with probably is the Winter Garden Theater on 51st Street in Manhattan.
So let me ask you a question. When you go to the next slide, maybe we could just take a brief for if anybody has any questions. Would that be all right?
That's fine with me.
Okay, so let me know when you're ready to do that.
Okay, this slide is a rendering of the Lido golf course with the hotel in the back. And golf course's inception was many years before the Lido Hotel was built. Actually, Reynolds was a doer of dreams, but he always did his thing with other people's money. And in 1914, what he did is made a deal with his rich friends and capitalists. And what he had them do was buy acreage and have them themselves build the golf course that he envisioned. And the course was a world-class golf course and one of the most popular Lido amenities. And the golf course was created by a very famous architect, a golf architect, C.B. McDonald. Do you want to stop?
Yeah, Tom? We just chatting.
Yeah, I unmuted everyone, so.
So if we have any questions, we're going to take a short, if someone would like to ask Joanne Belli about any of the slides or any of the photographs. If you have any questions, if you don't, then we can proceed.
I have a question. Is that the same golf course that's, you know, the Lido golf course that's there now? Or is that a different location?
You want to answer that or shall I?
I'll be happy to add to it. No, it's not the same one. It was the original. It had the 18 holes, 4 of which are right on the ocean. And what happened was during World War II, United States Navy requisitioned all 167 acres that belonged to the Lido Club Hotel and the Lido Club. And during World War II, this particular golf course was completely demolished and used for practice sessions. And it wasn't until the hotel went back to the Sidons in 1947 that they tried to rebuild the golf course. And at that point, it was not practical for them to build a golf course on both sides of Lido Boulevard, because Lido Boulevard had now become more of a boulevard than the road that it was before World War II. And also the problem was that the barracks for the Navy men on the golf course were needed for housing post-World War II because there was a shortage of housing. So they were made into townhouses for the Navy men and their families who lived locally. And so they weren't able to rebuild the golf course until around 1949. And Trent Jones, another architect, very famous golf architect, built it, but built it much further east than it was originally.
And is that the place where the Lido golf course is today?
Exactly.
I see. Ah,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, and it really doesn't resemble the original. They did try to create some of the holes to be similar.
Interesting. Interesting.
Does
Thank
anybody
you.
else have any further questions? Okay, so we can proceed with your next slide if you're ready, and we can mute everybody again, Tom. That would be. Okay, Miss Belli. Wait, I'm gonna unmute. Where are you? Hold on. Tom.
Okay, am I all right now?
There you go. Yes.
Okay. All right, so this is a picture then of the construction of the Lido Hotel. The construction actually began, Reynolds announced his plans in 1925, which is at the height of a boom of real estate in Long Beach. Real estate in Long Beach was doubling and tripling. I know many of you would love that now in the matter of a day. Reynolds took advantage of that and figured, well, things are really going well. I'm going to build this hotel. What I wanted to talk about the initial golf course was that Reynolds had a plan for those wealthy capitalists that included Otto Kahn and Vanderbilt Jr. And what they were going to do was they were going to build a hotel as well as develop the Lido colony, which is the area of Lido right near the Lido Hotel. But they never went through with the plans. Nothing was built except the beautiful golf course. They went bankrupt. And because William Reynolds held the second lien, he was able to reassume the property, got the golf course, got the property back for nothing, and then decided in 1925 to build the hotel right on the ocean, right near the 7th hole. You can notice the beautiful cupolas and parapets, which are really part of the stately architecture and iconic for the Lido Hotel. This is the north side of Lido, and it is the official opening was in June 1928. I believe it was June 17th. And during that first year, all kinds of very important, prominent people in the theater, in politics, socialites attended. Mayor Jimmy Walker was there for the first 4th of July. Here you can see, I think this is a beautiful overview picture of the Lido Club Hotel. You can see that it was built in the form of a Moorish cross, and it has 2 V's on the east and west of a central section. If you look in the background, you can see that there's the beginnings of the first houses in Lido, which are part of the quads. I don't know how many people are familiar with that, but the Long Beach Historical Society, when we can gather again, is going to do a talk on the quads. They were the first 16 houses that were built by Senator Reynolds in this section of Lido. And of course, with a backdrop of powdery sand, a glistening ocean, blue skies, and only 55 minutes from skyline, it was a seductive setting for the privileged people.
Mm-hmm.
I have to move this. Okay, this is the black and white copy is the copy in the book because all the pictures had to be black and white. And the color copy is a picture of the rendering that is now in the Lido Beach Towers lobby. The rendering is by a very famous artist named Houston Hawley that had his own show at the Museum of the City of New York a number of years ago. It's a pictorial representation of the Lido Country Club in all its glory. If you look in the westerly section I don't know, does my cursor point it out? You'll see the Lido Club Hotel. Slightly to the right of it, with the red building, the red roof, you'll see the casino. The casino was not a casino per se. It was an indoor oceanfront glass enclosed pool. Further to the right of that were at its height, 475 cabanas that were at some point built in 2 stories. And then further east of that and behind that was the Olympic-sized pool that was eventually built maybe 2 years after the hotel. To the right of that was what was called the Venetian Pavilion. And the Venetian Pavilion was built in 2 stories, had wraparound terraces with amazing views of the golf course and the ocean. And actually, it served people and was part of Lido until I would say about 1970, the early 1970s. And its name was changed from the Venetian Pavilion to the Terrace Club. And further east was what William Reynolds had envisioned, but times got hard and he was kind of running out of money. If you look at the jetties that jut into the ocean, he built them for the purpose of protecting the shores and preventing erosion. And he also had an idea about making amusement pavilions on the jetties, but that never materialized. I don't know how I'm doing on time because I have so many more facts I want to share, but I want to get to the 30 slides.
We can go till 3. I don't think, Tom, we have a program after this, correct?
Yeah, I don't believe so either. I'll have to check the schedule, but.
So we could probably run a little over. I don't think that'll be a problem.
So the last parts of William Reynolds' dream were built about 2 years after the hotel was built. So that was like 1930. William Reynolds was the catalyst behind this. And he was actually, every article that I read, he was out there physically watching all the construction and really taking great delight in it. And unfortunately, the trouble with the Great Depression, the stock market crash, and William Reynolds passed away on October 13th, 1931. So a lot of his dream east of the pavilion didn't really get built. And but he was dedicated to this building and this dream. In fact, he leased the property from Cooper Union that the Chrysler building exists on now. And he was the one, William Reynolds, who hired Van Allen, the architect for the Chrysler building, and was going to build what was going to be called the Reynolds building. But at some point in 1928 in October, and local legend has it that the deal was made on our golf course, he sold all the rights to his lease and to Van Allen's ideas.
Yep.
He sold it to William Chrysler.
Yes.
And Chrysler went ahead and built the Chrysler building there. So we have to love William Reynolds for choosing us instead of the Chrysler building.
That's beautiful.
Here you see a picture of the rendering in Lido's newly refurbished lobby. And an interesting story about it is in 1980, when the hotel was closed, and the building was going to become a condominium, I'm told that Mrs. Fisher found it in the attic or the basement and decided that it was really precious as it is and gave it to the people who built the condominium. And they passed it on to the first board. And one of the members of the board realized how important it was. It was a piece of history and a piece of art. But it was in terrible shape because it had been in the attic. And she got people from the Fine Arts Department of New York University for free to restore it. And that's a picture on the left that you see it being restored.
It's beautiful.
This is a typical postcard of the time. The reason I selected this is because I wanted to show you that although Lido is very often thought about in bubblegum pink colors and called fondly the Pink Lady. When we were doing the construction years ago, we did the entire outside of the building. We hired a preservation company who found out that the colors were never really initially pink. It was a pale yellow and a sort of reddish orange on some of the other parts of the building.
Mhm.
Again, another beautiful postcard of the south side of Lido. If you look at these two towers, you'll notice that they're no longer part of the Lido Beach Towers. I can't figure out the exact date that they were taken down, but I believe that it was done later in the 1970s, perhaps when it went condo. The town of Hempstead gave them permission to change and said that they had to keep a lot of the arabesque figures on the outside, and they also had to keep the iconic cupolas. If you look in the middle part, you will see this was the solarium that was attached to the lobby, and it was really quite beautiful. As we go forward, I have a picture of the inside. Here's dancing. Lido had 2 orchestras playing daily in its heyday, and dancing was always a very important part. You can see the skylights in the pool casino, which is where the indoor pool was. And to the left, you can see a little bit of the solarium. More dancing on the outdoor terrace. You can see that it was an orchestra there, and there was also always an orchestra playing in the Venetian Pavilion. The Lambeth Walk was originally from a Noel Gay play, and it was all the rage in 1938 at the time before World War II. And Lido Club constantly had parties going and follies. And although in the initial years there was dry times and prohibition, it never dampened the party atmosphere at Lido. And during one of the Lido follies in 1938, all of the guests and members were busy learning this Lambeth Walk and preparing for it. And what I find is very interesting is that in October 1938, the New York Times headline read, "While dictators rage and statements talk, all Europe dances to the Lambeth Walk." This is an inside view of the casino, the indoor pool, and you can see the beautiful glass and steel structure and the lovely windows that let in light. Those of us who live near here know that it's very often windy, so this was a wonderful place to swim when the weather wasn't perfect. And you can see the crowds, and you can see that there was probably a diving championship. Now, I've been told, but I can't substantiate from locals, that there was actually a button that they could push, that you could push and a glass floor would come over the pool, and Reynolds would welcome people to come and dance on the ocean. But I have not been able to substantiate that, and it's not in the book. This is a picture of how elegant the cabanas were. You see how wonderful people dressed there. These are 2 pictures of the Lido Olympic pool. In the background here, you can see the building that was the Venetian Pavilion. And very often the Venetian Pavilion and the Lido pool were used jointly to have these major events. The AAU held a lot of different events also at the pool, and this is another example of it.
Very nice. Look at that.
This is an aerial view, one of the views that I wanted to use for the cover of the book, but Arcadia Press had different rules. You couldn't use something that was aerial, and they considered this aerial. But at its height, there were 475 cabanas that were east of the hotel, and they extended on as far as the eye could see. And they were built in 2 tiers. I don't know if you can see that. There was a top tier. And Lester Capel gave me the great pleasure of speaking to his friend, Jim Herman. And Jim Herman contributed to the book. He's a local Long Beach resident, now lives in Lido Beach. And in 1940, to get himself through University of Pennsylvania at the end of the Depression, he applied, knew someone, and got a job working as a cabana boy at Lido. And in the book, he tells us a lot about what happened at that time and the famous people that he met. He used to make in 1940 $2 for each cabana. I think he from Reynolds. He had 5 cabanas on the second floor, which were not considered as important as the cabanas on the ground floor. But he made about $50 a week in tips.
That's amazing. Wow.
Right.
Yeah, Mr. Herman's he's a great guy. Class of 38.
Oh, he is. When we can all join together to meet in person, he's promised that he's going to come, and I hope that Lester will come and
Of course.
share firsthand.
He keeps asking me about your book, Lester.
Yeah, I didn't forget about him. It's just the situation.
I know.
This is a picture of the iconic fountain in Lido, and it suffered a great deal of damage during Hurricane Sandy, but the board and the unit owners were committed to rebuilding it, and it's still a wonderful place that Lido residents gather, and we have cocktail parties there. But it's interesting, when I was looking at this picture, preparing this for the first time, although my apartment overlooks that, I realized that the design in the fountain is really mimicking the design on the parapets. Can you see that?
Yes. It's amazing.
And this part here was the outdoor terrace where people could eat, or they could go inside to the very formal dining room called the grill room. And I'll explain to you how in the 1960s that was changed, taken away, the outside area, and put in the Starlight room. This is a picture of the solarium, and you can see the lovely wicker furniture, the skylights, the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the ceramic tile floor. And it was a great place for the ladies to gather after dinner because the men had an exclusive card room that they could go to off the grill room. This is a picture of the lobby. And although so many years have passed, when the condo was built, they really did keep a lot of the Gothic architecture and that was original to it. Of course, we don't have a fireplace because they wanted to limit the lobby because they wanted to get the maximum number of room to sell apartments in it. But there was also a grand pipe organ put here. And a lot of people gathered here. There was a lot of business conducted in this lobby. During World War II, Lido was requisitioned by the United States Navy, all 167 acres, including that fabulous golf course, and it served as a United States Naval Training and Discharge Base. And this is a postcard showing the naval gentleman. And what's interesting is before the Navy purchased it, they had a company called Ostendorf and Morris, and they're an appraisal company. And it's about 50 pages, and it's available in the archives of the Lido Museum. And it takes every single detail of the Lido in terms of the building and the outdoor spaces and gives detailed information on it and history on it. Initially, the Navy wanted to not purchase, but lease it, but they ended up purchasing it instead for $1.3 million.
Wow.
Here they are on the north side of the Lido Hotel. You can see the wall that survived World War II, but didn't survive Hurricane Sandy. It went down along with all the cars that were in the parking lots. But here's the naval men busy practicing, and I've been told, but I can't substantiate it, that Richmond Road, which is the road that's in front of the hotel, was renamed during World War II General MacArthur Boulevard. And so that's something I have to ask Lester Capel when I see him. Okay. So during World War II, the entire of Lido was used. It was also used for a discharge center. It was the prototype for the United States, the first discharge center, and all the other discharge centers after the war were built upon their specifications. Okay, so after the war in 1947, the hotel went back to the Seidens, and they kept it until 1962 when they sold it to Martin Tannenbaum. Martin Tannenbaum sold off a lot of the land, as I explained before. And then what he did is made about $1 million worth of renovations on the hotel when he owned it. One of the things he did, and you can see the circular dome, that is the Starlight Nightclub circular that was built by him when he sold off the Terrace Club. And in there, lots of very famous people performed. You could push a button. It was one of the first retractable roofs in the country. You pushed a button, and on nice nights, the stars could perform under the stars. It was quite a spectacle. And on the left-hand side, you can see I got permission from Barbra Streisand's website to use this in the book. And here, Barbra Streisand, when she was 21 years old, performed Under the Stars in the Starlight Room on August 9th, 1963. That was her first and only performance in Long Island until she performed at the new Coliseum on 2017. I was there. She talked about her performance at Lido, and she made a joke saying that it took her all this time to get back because of all the traffic on the Long Island Expressway, which we're notorious for.
That's great.
Here's a picture inside the nightclub, and you see Sammy Davis Jr. performing with quite an orchestra, and you see the people all around, and a lot of them are dressed to the nines. And Dodo Burke, who the book is dedicated to and who just passed away the middle of last month, told me that they had tons of parties in there too, private parties, of people that were trying to impress the clientele there, and they were really the new rich. And she told me about one party, this is in the book, where the woman wore a tiara and such a diamond-studded sequins dress that was so heavy that the people had to roll her in on a luggage cart to her party. She couldn't even walk in the dress. So in 1980, after 45 years as a luxurious hotel, the Lido was sold to developers. By the way, the developer was Angle, and Angle, I believe, is the gentleman who now is with Berman. Berman and Angle are supposedly doing the construction in the open spaces in Long Beach if they get permission. And the Lido is probably 92 years old now, but we're looking forward to its 100th. And it still majestically overlooks the Atlantic Ocean. And really, I'm proud to be one of the owners there because it has been lovingly taken care of at great expense by the owners. And I think it's in the best shape it's ever been in. And it has, we're inspired by its past and dedicated to its future and privileged to live within its walls. And this is a picture that's my backdrop here, and it's a picture that I took from the beach. And it's a testament to our incredible history on the Long Beach Barrier Island and our amazing future. And I thank you all for listening.